Welcome back to another week of Beyond Motherhood, beautiful mamas. So happy to have you here. And I wanted to share a little story this morning that's going to kind of segue into what I want to speak about today. But first, if you're new here, thank you so much for joining. I'm so happy to have you here. And Beyond Motherhood podcast is all around what the name suggests, everything around being a mama, the challenges of motherhood, navigating motherhood, and beyond, reclaiming the woman you are outside of the mama, connection, coming home to yourself, and so much more. So, thank you for being here. So, my story is fresh in my mind because it happened last night, but it has happened times before. And I just had my eldest home with me last night. Every second Thursday, it's just me and him, while his little bro is with his dad. And I had said to him, like, no screens tonight. He'd had footy training. We made dinner. He'd showered. And after dinner, I was like, okay, what are we going to do together? Because obviously, wanted to spend quality time together since it's just me and him because we don't get a lot of it. And he wanted to do something that was a bit more physical. He wanted to do a Nerf gun war. And my initial response was like, oh, do we have to? Can we do something else? There was just like this resistance to doing this particular thing, this particular game and play that just involved running around and, shooting Nerf guns at each other. I was getting towards the end of the day. I was getting tired. You know the drill, right? And we all face this at some point. We all face this resistance, whether it's when your kiddo wants to play with you, you just, like I said, you feel that internal, like, oh, that's resistance. Or when you desire to start a new hobby or start at the gym or do some more physical activity or make new friends, but there's something that is holding you back. Again, that is resistance. And I really want to chat about resistance today and how this not only shows up in motherhood, but how this shows up being a woman outside of the mother as well, because we all experience it. And especially, I know there's times I experience it when my kids want to do a lot of this physical activity, running around, and it usually is at nighttime because they really thrive off getting that energy out before winding down for bed or as part of winding down for bed. But usually, me at the end of the day, I'm like, no, I just want to sit down and not do anything unless it's dancing. But anyway, first of all, I wanted to chat about like what actually is resistance. What is it? It's really just that internal no when part of you actually wants to say yes. It's not about overriding your no or overriding safety or boundaries. It's really when you're like, oh, I do want to do this, but there's something that's stopping me, whether it's you're exhausted, whether there's some fear, or whether, there's just that hesitation, self doubt, or even frustration. It can really be all of those things and feel like all of those emotions bubbling up under the surface for you. And it often will show up when we do step outside of our comfort zone or when our nervous system perceives that there might be something unfamiliar or it might feel unsafe in our body, but that doesn't necessarily mean it equals quote unquote bad or don't do it or we're overstepping a boundary here. And it is normal. It is normal to feel that way, especially as a mom when it comes to playing with our kids. I know it can feel that way sometimes, but it doesn't have to dictate our choices. And I will say there are times, especially when it comes to play, where I know like I literally don't have any fuel left in the tank. And I will say that to my kids and be like, look, I still want to play. I still want to do something. And I might give them two choices I'm really just feeling up to doing X or Y. Um, for example, with my eldest, we love playing card games together. So can we sit down at the table and play a card game or Connect Four or whatever other game that doesn't necessarily involve physical exertion if I can actually feel and I'm like, I'm really like I'm spent for the day. Like, no, don't have anything left. Or modify the game. And to be honest, last night it actually wasn't that physically exerting because we were just kind of going around corners and hiding behind like little barricades that we made and all that type of thing. So, but there was still like a mental energy that was needed. And that in itself can feel exhausting, right? But as I said, it doesn't have to dictate our choices. So, how does it actually show up in motherhood, this resistance? And as I said, playtime resistance, big one. Your child asks to play, but all you want is 5 minutes to yourself. All you want to do is kick up your feet and be done for the day. You know the one. There can be like this creative resistance. If you really feel the pull to express yourself, to try new things, to whether it's a hobby, like for me, dancing's a big one for me now. And initially, like I did feel resistance. I really wanted to do it, but there was a fear around, what am I going to look like? And fear around being accepted and fear around maybe being judged about how I move and dance. But also, guilt can creep in as mothers because it's like, oh, I'm doing something for me, or I'm leaving my family to go and pursue something that I really desire to do for myself. So those types of resistance and feelings can come in with that creative resistance. Um, connection and resistance around really deeply desiring deep friendships with like-minded mums and like-minded women, but you end up avoiding even trying to reach out and trying to go to a play group or trying a new hobby where you might meet new people or joining a gym. There's this resistance because, again, there might be some fear around that fear of being rejected or judged. You might have a sister wound that needs to be explored and healed. And that, again, that is a big one for me and something that I am still overcoming. I have a deep desire to connect with like-minded women, and I have, and dance again has been a big one, meeting other women, other mothers, and really building that community. But there is that resistance sometimes because when we show our full selves, sometimes we are rejected. And then another one, which I was kind of contemplating on, was this self-care resistance or nourishing ourselves or whatever word you want to use. I mean, self-care gets thrown around so loosely. I really like to look at it as this deep nourishment of self. And we know that rest, slowing down, as well as cultivating more joy and pleasure in our lives as women, as mothers, is essential. But we resist. We resist slowing down for many reasons. We resist slowing down on because it doesn't feel safe in our nervous system to slow down because we are so conditioned to be on the go all the time. We resist slowing down because then that guilt, mum guilt, comes in and we shame ourselves like, oh, I shouldn't be doing that for myself. We resist embracing pleasure and joy because, again, we feel guilty if we do something for ourselves, or we might have a relationship with pleasure that we need to heal and to rewire and reframe. And again, that has been a big one for me as well, but one that we cannot overlook. And I think the biggest thing when it comes to this resistance is really not getting into this loop of judging and shaming ourselves. I always love to come from and have, again, this has been through rewiring and reframing the words that I use and how I look at it. is about getting curious and becoming curious about, in this case, resistance. So instead of judging ourselves for it, we can start to ask ourselves questions. When we start to feel that resistance creeping in for whatever reason, like I mentioned, whether it's playtime with your kids, creativity, or trying something new, creating new connections with other women and moms, or this self-care or nourishment piece, try asking yourself these questions. And I can put these in the show notes as well, so you can come back to them. So and there might be some that you want to pull out that speak to you most, but here are the questions, and I'm going to just pause for a little bit after each one. How does this resistance feel? Where do I feel this resistance in my body? For example, tightness in a chest, not in my stomach. Is my jaw tense? Are my shoulders tense? Ask yourself this. Where do I feel this? How does it feel in my body? What thoughts are coming up and running through your head when this resistance shows up? What action do you take from this place? For example, do you then avoid doing the thing? How does this resistance serve me? And this is an important one. Is it protecting me? Is it trying to keep me safe? Or is it trying to keep me small? So, how is it serving you? What is the smallest step I could take to meet this resistance with more openness? And the last one I'm going to share is, what would it feel like to move through this resistance with curiosity instead of judgment? So, some ways that we can actually move through resistance are to really start to pause and acknowledge, instead of just pushing the resistance away, just notice it and breathe into it, and just even accept that it's there, instead of just shoving that emotion, that feeling down, because it's going to just keep coming back up, right? So we can just pause and acknowledge it and just start to accept it a little bit each time. And reframe the story. Is it keeping me safe? Is it keeping me small? Really, as I said before, this is a really powerful question to ask yourself, to kind of find out what is the layer deeper here that is part of why I am meeting or coming up against this resistance. Take imperfect action always, instead of waiting for the right moment to move through it. Like, what's something, one small step you can take? So obviously last night I did play the game in the end. I did play it. And I may not have been as energetic as I am on other nights, but I still did. I'm like, how can I do this still? Have fun, connect with my child, but in a way that might serve me a little bit more, because I am feeling a bit tired. So there were times that, we weren't really running around. Not that it was really a running around game, but there were times where I was literally just like ducking behind the couch and just popping up when he would come around the corner. That was a small step. I still did the game, but I kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Modified. That's the word. I modified it to suit my energy levels. So that was the little small action that I took, still playing the game. And honestly, we had a great time. It was actually really fun. Nervous system support. Really, this can be a big one to help move you through that resistance, whether that's coming back to it later. We can't always do things in the moment, but like using movement, using music, grounding techniques that are going to help to not only regulate your body's response to that resistance, because you might go into either like a fight or flight mode where you're just like, hey, I'm not doing this, no. And that might lead to snapping at your kids, causing disconnect. Or you could shut down and go into more of a freeze mode, again, where you just completely avoid. But just become aware. And from that place, we can start to rewire our nervous system to feel safe and to use different practices and techniques and strategies to do this to help to regulate our body's response to that resistance as well. So I want to just leave it with knowing that resistance, it is a messenger. It is a signal to your body, and it is an invitation to explore what's beneath the surface here. And when we start to meet it with a little bit more curiosity, we can start to really unlock that freedom and that joy and that expansion in motherhood and life. We open ourselves up to feeling like we can connect more with our kids or to connect more with ourselves by doing things and meeting new people without the guilt and without the avoidance. And just know that it's okay if these things come up as well. It's just taking those small baby steps to become curious and to meet the edges of your resistance, because each time we meet the edge there and maybe do that small little thing and to ground ourselves and to soothe our nervous system, we are building our capacity every time we do meet that. So my question for you to take from today and even just explore those questions that I shared earlier is, what is one area in your life right now where you're feeling resistance? And the second part to that is, what is one small step that you can take to move through it? And do use those other questions, as I said, in the show notes. But thank you so much for tuning in to Beyond Motherhood today. If this episode resonated with you, I would absolutely love it if you shared it with a mama who might need to hear this today and might be struggling a little bit with any of these things that we discussed, any of these areas of resistance that can show up for us mamas and us as women. And give this rating a review, leave a comment if you feel called, or share it on your socials. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you next time.